Right, good afternoon people of YouTubes. A huge thank you to the 13% of you that subscribed and continue in watching my videos. The other 82%, you know what to do. Go down, click that subscribe button, hit that bell button so you'll know when I upload my next video, and hit that like button if you think this video is any good. Right, now that is out of the way with, we've got the race car to prepare for next season. I don't want to leave it until next year, January, February, to start preparing it, because I'll be in a big rush and I'll miss something, or something won't be quite right. So in this video, we're going to go through the plans of prepping the race car, and also we're going to have a look at the engine and see why that failed, or at least see what damage it caused. Now I got this off the trailer. It ran and drive. I think it sounds a little bit low on compression, but maybe we'll do a compression test depending on what we find. So let's hit the intro and then we'll get on and explaining what we're going to do to get this car ready for next season. Right, so last season we were with the Cockshoot Cup, where I was racing with many other Fs. This year I tend to switch it up every year. I started with the Cockshoot, I got one race in, then I went to the Cup last year and done half the season there because obviously we had problems with the car. Then I went back to the Cockshoot this year. But next year, I have put down, registered for the MG Cup, which has now gone over to the Equip series. So it's now called the Equip MG Cup. MG Car Cup no longer supports racing, so we've had to find, or the Cup has had to find, other series that will house us, basically, that will take us under their wings. Right, so because we've gone over to the Cup, we need to change a few things. The first thing is going to be tyres. At the minute I run the Kumo V70s and the Escadas, and they're pretty much on par with the AO52s, but I couldn't get the AO52s in the size that I wanted. Now for the MG Cup, I'm going to need to run Toyo R888Rs, which I ran in the first season on 15-inch wheels. Now we're running the big AP 4-pot calipers. We're going to have to run the 16-inch wheels, which means we need to get some new tyres. So that is the first thing. The second thing is the ECU. Because I'm going in Class A, I'll need a standard ECU with a regulation map done by K-Maps, and all locked in place. So if the scrutineers ever come over, they can plug the computer in and see that I'm running a K-Maps 160 ECU, and that'll be, all the 160 ECUs will be all the same. And that is about it really, in the sense of stuff that we need to do to go into the MG Cup. The other things we need to do is obviously the damage down the side. Now I was going to re-shell this, but I thought that I'd make better content if I repair the damage. So I've got a full rear quarter. I think they're made by Heritage now. I've got an original front sill section. I've got another second-hand door. And I've got two front wings, because obviously in the last videos you can see where I cut the arch out to gain clearance for the tyres. There was a big rusty mess. So I've got two new front wings, a door, a front sill and a rear quarter. That is it for the exterior. For the interior, not really much is going to change. The only thing I want to do is I want to get the seat off these rails and I want to lower the seat down. Now if I bolt it directly straight to the floor, I will gain an inch headroom height. Because at the minute I feel I'm a bit too tall, and I reckon that if you put a ruler across the top of the cage to my helmet, it's going to be very tight on the regulations, because your helmet needs to be below the bottom line of the roll cage, I believe. I'll see if I can get a picture from the Motorsport UK Blue Book and insert it in, but if not, someone might be able to tell me otherwise, but I think I'm a little bit too tall in the seat. So we're going to try and bolt the seat to the floor. A lot of people do it. You need to run a square plate underneath the seat, and then another one from underneath the floor, and then literally sandwich the floor pan in between. The only problem that I've got is on the tunnel side runner, we've got this step that step down probably another inch. So we're going to have to get a spacer in between the floor and the plate, and then obviously the seat will sit on top, and then another plate will go underneath. So that's another thing, but we'll leave that to last just in case we don't get the time, because at the minute I can still drive it like it, if you know what I mean. It's not ideal, but yeah. It's been stuck in my trailer since Snetterton a few months ago, nearly 3 months ago now, so it's got a little bit of mould that we need to clean off, a little bit on the belts. Another thing we need to check is belts, whether they are in date or not. So yeah, they're valid till 2026, and we just need to check the fire extinguisher just to make sure that that's in date. The seat needs to be of a conformity, but it don't need to be in date. So yeah, that is the planned bit of in here. And then we might blow over when we go to do the seat, blow over into the with the paint when we go to paint the side. So that is that. Not much to do in the interior apart from lower the seat down. Right, so the elephant in the room is going to be the engine. As you know, the last race of the season in Snetterton, the engine let go again. It felt like I was getting a fuel surge going around the corners, and then it would pick up in the straights, and then continue on until the next corner, and after the corner that then fuel surged and then went out the corner until we got on the straight, and then it went off again. Not really too sure whether that's fuel surge or it could be an electrical issue. Obviously we've had all the wiring apart to do, like, cut the loom down. And I had well over a quarter of a tank of fuel, and I've ran that in the red before. So yeah, I don't think that's going to be fuel surge unless the gauge is telling me otherwise. And also when we put it onto the recovery, there's a lot of oil underneath. So I'm assuming there's going to be a window somewhere. Right, so I think what we need to do really now is get it up in the air and see if we can see anything untoward with where this oil leak is coming from. Right, I just wanted to add as well, before we have a look at this engine oil leak, the front brakes. Now I went from 240mm standard F calipers, so the single piston calipers, with Mintex F4R pads. Now with the 4 pots, I went with a EBC RP1 pad, I think they are. If that's not the right one, I'll put it down, but I'm pretty sure it's an RP1 pad, and it looks like I've gone through about half the pad already. But the problem that I had was at Cadwell, coming down from the gooseneck into the tight left-hander, with the standard two 40mm brakes with the F4R pads, I felt like I had loads of brakes. With these, I felt like I was pushing and pushing and pushing, but I didn't feel like I was getting any more braking than from what I had with the F4Rs. So yeah, that gets to a point, and then that'll just won't give me any more braking pressure. So I'm going to change up the pads from these RP1s, and I'm going to go for some more Mintex F4R pads, and just see if they're any better with the 4 pots. The last bit is, I think that the bottom of the suspension, or the suspension gas shocks, are resting on the bump stops. As you can see, or as you saw in the last clip, it sits quite low, and I know these can go quite low, but I think the gas shock is just a little bit more taller than the Avos. So we might have to either lift it up or adjust the shock, so to send the shocks away back to gas and get them shortened. Right, now that's out of the way with, let's have a look underneath the car and see if we can see any windows. Right, just looking under here, if I can get the torch on, you can see the drips of oil all over the exhaust. So that is obviously my my smoking when it happened. So there's a little bit of oil, not absolutely caked, just a little bit really. You can see there's some on that engine mount there. Not too bad at all. Don't seem to be anything from the front there, so that all looks nice and dry. So we'll just have a look round the back, round the manifold area. I don't know if I can get you in there, but that looks absolutely clean as a whistle, and that's why I paint my blocks, to be honest with you, because it just makes things a little bit easier when you're looking for oil leaks. There's a little bit of a oil leak from this fitting here, but not nothing too drastic. Don't look like it's coming from the oil filter at all. Look like it's actually coming from the fitting itself. So yeah, that's that. Let's have a look on the other side of the engine block. Again, it's really hard to get you in there and shine a light everywhere. There we go, there's that. Can you see much? But I can't see no windows, and it looks absolutely dry until you get to this area here, which is the oil top up. Balance on there. Oil top up and the dipstick tube, and that is absolutely saturated. And the torch just fell on my face. Right, let's try there like that. Here we go. So yeah, the oil dipstick tube is absolutely saturated, and it looks like it could be coming from where it goes into that little black bulb thing with the, if you follow the tube all the way up, there's a black little bulb thing. Can I zoom you in? Whoop, there we go. So yeah, that looked like that's where it's coming from. Right, so it's looking like my theory could be correct. I've got fuel starvation, that's melted the hole in the piston, and that's caused so much crank pressure that it's blown it out of the dipstick. I originally said it's blown it out of a breather, but it looks like it's blown it out the dipstick itself. So I think the next thing we need to do, get it down on the floor, get the roof off, get the bonnet off, not the bonnet, the boot lid, and perhaps do a compression check and see what that entails. So it might let us know which cylinder is down. Yeah, and go from there. And I have got a little borescope camera now, So we might be able to delve down into the boards with that camera and just see if we can see anything. Right, let's get it down the floor. I'll whip the boot lid off, whip the roof off, and see what we can find. Right, roof is off, boot lid is off. I've pulled the coil packs out and I've pulled the spark plugs out, and I've already seen an issue. So this is number one. See the gap on there, it's lovely, looks like a nice plug. Number two, that will focus in, there you go. The electrodes have been squashed together, so that obviously, although it looks a little bit oily, but don't look too bad in the sense of burning. This one here, number three, I'll zoom in, yeah, absolutely fine. Number four, again, get it to focus, absolutely fine. So I've got my compression tester on here now, so hopefully I can crank it over. I've pulled the wire, that white wire, from the back of the safety cut-off switch, because that is for the power for the ECU. So I've disconnected the coils, I've disconnected the power to the ECU, so I've got no fuel going in. I'm not going to worry about throttle at the minute, but the fans will cut in because obviously the ECU hasn't got power, so the fans will automatically cut in anyway. So let's see what we got. Let me see if I can set you up a little bit better so you can actually see what's going on the gauge. Right, number one. Number two, this is obviously the problem one. Number three. Number four. Right, as you see there, looks like we've got two bad cylinders. So number one was 190, number two was 90, number three was 110, and number four was 182-ish, I reckon. So yeah, it's funny that the two middle cylinders, so number two and number three, they share the same coil pack. So was I getting fuel starvation, or was I getting a misfire caused by a faulty coil pack? Who knows? As I say, I've got plenty of fuel in the tank by the looks of that. I think what we will do is we will just take that cover off, take the top of the tank off, and take the pump assembly out, just to clarify and confirm we've got fuel in there. But I think, being that there's two cylinders gone, and it shares the same coil pack because it's a wasted spark, it's probably going to be more of a spark issue than a fuel issue. So yeah, that's what my thoughts are, because if that's still sparking and that's a fuel issue, that'll only be on one cylinder. My theory anyway. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the old borescope out and just bore down each piston or each cylinder and see what they look like. Now I'm not sure if I get any sound out of the borescope or not, so I might just put that clip in, I might voice over it, I don't know yet. but I will just borescope it and you will see a clip. Right, as you've seen from that clip, I started at number 1 and you could quite clearly see evidence of some sort of detonation or something in that engine that's been floating around, because you can see like little dimples in the top of the piston. Number 2, well, that was trash. Number 3, again trash. Number 4 was the better one. Still a couple of little dimples in there, but yeah, that one seemed okay, and it actually had the highest compression by about 10 psi. So what do we do now? Is it worth stripping it down? I don't think so at this moment in time. Do I take the inlet manifold off and just check in there to make sure there isn't anything in the inlet? Yeah, let's do that. Coolant is absolutely fine. There's probably the slightest little bits of oil in there, but it could have been from the last time. You can see the header tank's a little bit brown, but as I say, from last time, that could have been just a couple of, all it takes is a couple of little spots of oil to still create that sort of mess. What does the oil look like? Yeah, oil still looks bang on, so no real issues there. I think what I'm going to do is take the inlet manifold off and just make sure that is all clear, because if something would have got into the engine, I don't know how, but if something would have got into the engine, that could have made a big mess, and it'd be interesting to see where it would come from. So let's get this crossbar off, we'll get this charcoal canister out of the way, and we'll get the inlet manifold off. Right, the good news is I can't see any debris in the air filter pipe. I can't see any debris in any of them runners. I can't see any debris in this manifold here, and I've just opened up the flap and just looked in there, and again I can't see any debris whatsoever. So yeah, I'm not really too sure what to think now, because obviously we've got little dimples in all the cylinders, so again that still could be a fueling issue. I mean, I've taken all this wiring apart and checked all the wires and all the connections and then rewrapped everything, so I'm quite confident in saying that the wiring is good. Again, I'm not really too sure if the problem is in that fuel pump, but I don't want to go and stick another engine in it and the same thing happens. So yeah, I think what we'll do is, again, I'd like to be able to test the pressure coming out, but again I don't know why it would lose pressure going round the corner unless it's fuel surge. So I think what I'm going to do is just whip that plate off, whip that fuel sender unit out, and just see what we can find from there. Right, that's the fuel sender unit out. Made a great old mess getting it out, but as you can see, or not see, there's plenty of fuel in there. Also, there's a couple of metal shavings in there, but the fuel pump will have a gauze on there to stop all that coming through. But as you can see, it's got plenty of fuel in there. So I think I can rule out fuel surge. Right, what's next? Right, so that's the fuel pump assembly. Not really too sure what we can do from here, to be honest with you. Yeah, I'm not too confident to say it's definitely this, that or whatever. But the engine's got to come out, it's got to be replaced. I think I might just replace the fuel pump anyway. Would it be injectors? I don't think so, but I think what I'll do is I'll take the injectors out and have them tested anyway, just to be on 100% certainty. I could stick another lower inlet manifold in, but what's the chances that it's going to be exactly the same? Who knows? Fuel pressure regulator, maybe, not really too sure. But yeah, has my wiring, is there dodgy earth on the wiring somewhere from when I've done the loom conversion, and it's just not, it's losing power temporarily to the fuel pump or to the injector harness, or you know, the earth's all tight and looks all good, so I'm not really too sure. And I've got double earth on the, I've got one on the engine, one on the gearbox, just to be 100% safe. I've got this other little earth, I don't really know what that earth do, to be honest with you, but that's on MEMS 3 ECU anyway. Yeah, so I'm baffled to what it can be. I think what I can do is replace the engine, replace the fuel pump, get the injectors checked, change the engine wiring loom, and obviously we're going to go for a different engine ECU anyway. But I've ran all season on that ECU and never had an issue. It's just that last race. But it could have been an internal engine fault. You know, it could. I don't think it's dropped the valve. I'd have made a hell of a lot more mess if it's dropped the valve. But yeah, I don't know. So I think what we're going to do is just eliminate everything and go from there. Another thing which I was annoyed about is that my oil pressure gauge, my stack one, which I put a brand new sensor on because that stopped working at Cadwell, stopped working again at Snetterton. So I think there's too much engine harmonics because of the competition engine mounts, and that's just knackering the sensor out. Another thing that someone's mentioned is to mount the oil pressure switch onto the bulkhead and then have an oil line that goes to that oil filter housing, just so it takes all the vibration out from the engine. Or I could run a manual gauge, but I will need, I think it states that I need to run a braided oil line inside the cab. So I'm not really too sure what I'm going to do with that there, to be honest with you. Right, I think that's enough of an update for now. Not really too sure what I'm going to do next, whether I'll drop the engine out and just get all that in, or start on the bodywork. Obviously we've got a quarter, a door, a front sill and 2 wings to do. So drop your comments down in the comment box of what you want to see. Do you want me to pull the engine and replace the engine, and then maybe a further video is to tear down this engine and see if we can see anything more with that? Or do you want to see me replacing the rear quarter, door and all the bodywork? So again, thank you for watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. There is 82% of you not subscribed that watch my videos, so hit that subscribe button. Click that notification button as well, because then that will notify you for when I upload again. Another update on this one, or the Metro, or the XR3i race car. And they're the projects at the minute. I have got another project which I've just moved into the next door unit, which will happen in the new year, and I think a lot of you are going to be a bit excited about that one, but I won't spoil the surprise just yet. But yeah, for now, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.